Growing up, I knew my parents were there for me. We celebrated family events. They were there for me when I was sick or needed help. As me and my sister grew up, we knew we could count on our parents. We were so proud to be their children. Today, we are there for our parents, to share in the celebration of their grandchildren or to be there when they are ill or need assistance. They can count on us. And now our parents look to us to take care of them. Hello, this is Michael Wilsker, and thank you for joining us at Always There. I am the owner of an elder care agency called Always Best Care Senior Services, located in Sudbury and Westboro, and we provide non-medical in-home care and assisted living placement for seniors. We are going to be talking again with Patty Servais. Patty is a specialist in VA benefits, especially their aid and attendance program. Before we get into that, I just wanted to say, we're taping this show on November 13th, which is 2 days after the country celebrated Veterans Day. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the vets for their courage and dedication to make sure we are safe at home. I was honored to participate in the celebration of this holiday at an assisted living community named Epic Assisted Living in Weston. I was asked to talk about my father's experience of World War II, where he served as a Marine in the Pacific. He served on a frigate and was involved in the cleanup of Iwo Jima and brought back a Japanese bayonet that he found on the island. He gave it to me just prior to going into the hospital. 6 months later, he died and was given a full Marine Color Guard funeral. I proudly displayed the Stars and Stripes in my house, so thank you all for your service. So last time we talked in depth about VA aid and attendance with Patty, and we talked about some things prior to the show, and you said there were some changes to the program. Can you talk about those changes and the effect it has on eligibility?
Sure. So what we're seeing now is that the VA has started a 1-year look-back period. Previously, there was no look-back period, meaning that you could have X amount of assets, move them out of your name, and then apply for the VA benefit right away. Starting in June of 2012, they had proposed in Congress a 3-year look-back period, very similar to how we have with Medicaid, with Mass Health, where they want to look at what's happened over the last 5 years. So in June of 2012, they implemented a 3-year look-back. That went nowhere. Then last year, in the fall of 2013, they again proposed a 3-year look-back period, and that was getting a lot of traction and was looking like it was going to move forward. And then we hit the scandal with the VA hospitals, and all the senators pulled their support for that bill, so that it's not going anywhere. And in August, the VA implemented its own 1-year look-back period. They actually don't have to wait for laws to be passed by Congress in order to change something, because they're their own federal entity and they have their own rules and regulations. We believe what they've done is they've taken their own regulation, which says that this benefit is not meant to preserve the assets for the heirs, and they're using that wording to say, okay, we're going to look back at what was going on last year with the veteran to see if maybe some of those assets have been shifted to preserve them for the heirs. So what we're seeing is that the VA is looking at your 2013 information that's on file with the IRS. That can cause a lot of problems with our seniors. A lot of them start off by saying, hey, I didn't file taxes in 2013.
Before we get into that, I just want to ask you a question. Are you involved with talking to people about the look back 1 year? Do people come to you before they even file for the benefit and ask you if something has changed with the current law? Do you get involved in that at all? Do you just get involved when people call, see, this is what I want to do, how do I do it?
No, we do. What we do with all of our clients when they call to talk to us, prospective clients, we say, okay, what's your income? What are your medical expenses? What are your assets? Now, what was your income last year? Because now there's a look-back period. And often the children or the seniors will say, oh, well, Dad didn't file taxes last year. He hasn't had to file in years. That doesn't matter, because whether you file taxes or not, all the 1099s still get sent to the VA. If you sell a home, not to the VA, all your 1099s get sent to the IRS.
IRS.
It's an alphabet soup here. So, and for example, if you sold a house in 2013, that got reported to the IRS, whether you filed for taxes or not. And so what's happening is, if you file now and you sold a house in 2013, you're going to get a follow-up request from the VA saying, hey, you sold a house in 2013, you got $100,000 or $500,000 or whatever you got, and now you're claiming you only have $20,000. What happened? So we try to get in front of that by going through all of that with our clients before we get to the filing point. That's what we call the cash flow analysis, where we really try to go through, all right, what's going on with your finances and make sure that everything is good to go before we file.
Okay, so is this just another piece of work for elder law attorneys to sit down and counsel their attorneys like they would do with Mass Health?
It can be. I actually think it's the VA's way of trying to stop the transfer of assets, to try to stop estate planning and try to stop annuity sales that people are using to get this benefit. Because, you know, lots of times by the time someone needs this benefit, they're rather late in their lifespan. And so I think they're trying to stop that. It does provide a planning opportunity, exactly how we have with Mass Health. You know, if you've done your Mass Health planning, you know, you
Right.
instead of immediately then applying for VA benefits, you would now have to wait a year.
How long has the program been in existence? Since World War I or after?
Since the Korean era,
Since the Korean.
about 1953, I think, is when it started.
So why did the VA decide now that they wanted to do the one-year look back?
Because there have been so many people moving assets to get on the program. It's a means-based program, right? It's welfare. It's meant to keep the veteran who served during a period of war or a surviving spouse off of Medicaid longer than the veteran or surviving spouse who didn't serve. And so when they have folks who take $500,000 out of their name, give it to their kids, put it in a trust, whatever it is, and then say, hey, VA, I'm poor, I need that money, the VA is saying, hey, that's not the spirit of the benefit. And so they want to do a little checking on last year's situation and to see if they can figure out if you've moved any assets.
It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that there are more veterans now than there were at any other time, well, I shouldn't say that. It's probably shrinking now because of the World War II veterans, and there's no draft any longer.
Well,
So it's all
but we
volunteer.
still have the Gulf War coming in on the back end.
Right, but not as many troops served in the Gulf War as and did in prior
Right.
wars. Is that correct?
Right,
Yeah.
and it's dwindling down, the Gulf
Right.
War, you know,
Right.
going into active duty. But right now we have 7.8 million veterans over the age of 65. And there are only about 314,000 who are pulling down on this pension. So that's less than 4%. So when I very first started doing this in 2005, it was 3.3% of veterans over the age of 65. So we haven't seen a huge growth, right? We're only at 4% of veterans over the age of 65 are utilizing this program.
So why is that?
Most of them don't know about it and don't really understand how it works.
How do you get the word out then? I mean,
Well, TV shows like
TV
this.
shows like this,
Right? You have a broad
Well,
audience.
I'm always surprised because when I meet with a family, they've never even heard of the program.
Right.
And you know, I'm not as educated as you are because we just talked about a situation that I just talked about with a family about a veteran who's going to be passing away the next few days, 94 years old, and he served during World War II, and he's been divorced from his wife for at least 20 years. Or
Right.
more than that, and I had asked you if that wife is still eligible to get the benefit,
Right.
and your answer was?
No, you have to have been married to the veteran at the time of his death in order to move forward with this pension. So divorced from the veteran, you are not considered his surviving spouse. You're considered his ex-wife, and there are not benefits under this particular program for that.
Okay, so at the time of death, and they're married, and then, no, at the time of, go over that again,
She has to be married to him at the time of his death.
Okay, and then she couldn't remarry. If she
Cannot
remarried,
remarry.
right? So then she'd be qualified to get it if she doesn't remarry after his death.
That's right. Now, that cannot remarry rule went into effect on November 1st, 1990. And I really want to stress that because we have had people in this situation. They're married to a veteran. He dies in the 70s or the 80s. They marry someone else. That second person, they're not a veteran, but they die before November 1st, 1990. She can go back and use the first veteran service to get the benefit. If the second husband, if that gentleman didn't pass away until November 2nd, 1990, she could not go back. The law changed on November 1st, 1990.
So what happens if you remarry after you get the benefit? Does the benefit then cease?
Well, hopefully you've remarried a veteran and you can
Well,
use
the only
his
way you
service.
can continue is through remarrying. If you remarry after you get the benefit as the surviving spouse,
Right.
you get the benefit after after your husband has passed away,
Okay.
and then you remarry. Then the benefits.
Well, then the
terminates.
benefit would stop. You're no longer considered a surviving spouse. There would have to be a new application filed, and that would be a veteran with spouse application.
Okay.
So she has to make sure he's a veteran and make sure he served during a period of war.
So how do you get the word out? What is the best avenue outside of these kind of shows?
I do a
Is
lot
it-
of speeches,
Yeah.
you know, and
Does the
word of
VA? I'm
mouth.
sorry. Does the VA try to promote it at all, or they pretty
no.
much keep it in house?
Yeah, they pretty much don't promote it. I want to say in 2006, Congress said to them, hey, you have not done a good job promoting this. You need to promote it and get the word out. And what I saw they did was send a letter to assisted livings telling them that if they weren't using a VA accredited agent to help their residents, then they weren't helping them correctly. Well, that doesn't really get the word out to a veteran.
Right. Right.
Right? So that's what I saw. And they have created a pamphlet, which is on their website. But when you're talking about a World War II veteran, what are the chances
Right.
he's going to go to that website
Right,
and look it up?
right.
You know, some of the Korean War veterans would. You know, my parents are in their 70s, very computer savvy. They would if they thought there was
Right,
something there for
right.
them. But it's a hard one to get people to understand.
Do you give a lot of presentations at senior centers?
No, I mostly give presentations at assisted livings.
Now, give me the connection with assisted living and how does this all play out with the veteran
Well, the
benefit?
reason in this benefit sometimes as a misnomer gets termed as an assisted living benefit, right? I spoke to somebody today who called to say, oh, Patty, my dad's moved out of the assisted living. We need to stop the benefit. And I said, well, did he move back home and he's getting home care? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, well, we can get the benefit with home care. Most people think of it as an assisted living benefit because the VA calculation for income is what you make in monthly income minus what you pay for your care, which can be your entire assisted living fee. Once your monthly income is completely wiped out with your care fees and medical insurance fees, if you're zero or negative, you get the full benefit. So a lot of folks, they might be living at home and they have $3,000 a month in income and they're not paying, you know, a large sum of money in home care. They wouldn't necessarily qualify for the benefit, right? And so like take an example of someone who's living at home, they have $3,000 a month and maybe they're paying $500 a month for home care. They'd have income of $2,500. They moved into an assisted living, that same level of care would probably be $4,000 plus,
Right.
right? So now they're negative. So that's why people think of it as an assisted living benefit. And I always tell people, don't get emotional about the benefit, right? Think about it. You can be in a better situation at home paying $500 a month for home care than you are being in an assisted living paying $4,000.
Right,
You rarely
right.
have to look at the whole picture. Some people are just so, oh, my dad served and we have to get this. And I always say, let's hold on and look at the math. Let's do what's best financially
Right.
for your dad.
Let's talk about, I know people have always asked me, do you have to have a disability in order to be qualified for the benefit? Is that true?
If you're going for the aid and attendance level, you have to need the assistance of another person with activities of daily living. And when they say assistance of another person, they mean another person. You know, sometimes I'll say, oh, does your mom need the assistance of another person? And the daughter will say, yes, she uses a walker. Well, a walker's not a person, and the VA is very specific. They have to need another person. So you could then make that leap. If you need the assistance of another person, that is a disability. So yes, you have to really have a disability that means you can no longer be gainfully employed. So a lot of our folks who are in their 80s or 90s, their disability is being a frail elder, right? And they can no longer work, and maybe they need to standby assist with a shower, right? That would be disabled enough for the VA. And it's very important to note this disability does not in any way have to be related to their service.
Right, that's the question I had.
Yeah,
so they don't
no.
have to have been wounded in war and have to have their appointments at the VA hospital on a regular basis.
No, they
Okay.
could, they could have been stationed in Boston, been a paper pusher, never had any injury worse than a paper cut. But now they're 90 and they're a frail elder and they need assistance, they're going to qualify for this benefit.
So, of all the calls that you get, how many calls do you average in a year? Do you keep those statistics?
Well, we get about 1,500 calls a month.
A month.
Right.
Wow.
So if you can multiply by 12, you can tell us the number. Me,
Well,
I'm a
I didn't do
CPA,
very
so I
good at
only do
math.
Yeah.
So,
I used to be a CPA. I learned long ago. I'm going to use the calculator.
and of those many calls, how many people you find that you can help them?
Well, we believe we help them all, right? Because
Let's say get the benefit as far
okay.
as.
Well, see, our philosophy is this is not a yes or no benefit. It's if and when. So if you call us and we say, okay, when your assets are X amount, or, lots of people call us before they have any disability. So we like to say, if you're too healthy or too wealthy for this benefit, do not be sad, because nobody wants to be sicker or poorer, right? So if somebody calls us, we might say, hey, when your assets reach this amount, or when you need the assistance of another person, you're going to qualify for this benefit. So call us back no later than, August of 2015. But if, X or Y happens, call us back right away. So we like to believe we help everybody. How many of the 1,500 end up filing an application? That's tough to say. I would say in any given month, we probably do about 400 to 500 applications.
And what does
So
that?
maybe a third.
What does that entail?
Okay, so when somebody goes to file for the benefit, what it entails is going through all of their financial situation, putting it in the application in a way that the VA can understand it, particularly if you had some things happening last year that we need to explain, and your income, your expenses that are medically related. And then, of course, we have to prove that you had an honorable service, so that means a discharge. If you're married, we're going to need a marriage license, death certificate if your husband has passed away. And then what happens is we have people gather that source documentation for us. They scan it over to us. They go and fill out a survey on our website where we collect a lot of that data, because you wouldn't believe how hard it is to read a document from the 1930s
Sure,
that's been scanned
sure.
over to
Right,
you, right?
right.
So we're like, go in there and enter the year, day, month, year that your mom and dad got married, right? So we
right.
don't have to,
Right,
figure that
right.
out. And we create the application and we audit it. We have a two-step process that we go through. And then we email the application back to you for the applicant to sign, the veteran or the surviving spouse. And then you mail the package off to the VA, always, always, always keeping a copy for your records and proof of delivery. And then our average time to award is 4 months. And so hopefully at 4 months you get a letter saying, hey, you're going to get the money. But sometimes, at about 2 weeks you get a letter saying, hey, you sold a house last year, or, we checked in this new look-back period, it's kind of the Wild West out there right now with the look-back period. They're still trying to get their hands around it. So we'll get something like, you said that you were going to take $10,000 out of your IRA this year, but last year you took $8,400 out of your IRA. So we think you're going to take that too. So we're putting $18,400 as what you're going to take from your IRA this year. And you look and you're like, but I told you there was only $10,000 left in my IRA. So sometimes we have to, particularly in that new area, we really have to, respond back to the VA and say, well, actually, this is how the math should work there. But like I said, our average is 4 months, so we don't have too many people that get asked those questions. And when they do, we really try to, put a lid on that jar as quick as we can.
And that benefit is retroactive?
To the first of the month after you file.
After you file.
Yeah.
And how confident are you that you're going to get the application once it's filed?
Oh, very.
What's very mean?
Like 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
So,
if we're not, like I have a gentleman who served in the period of Vietnam where you have to be able to prove that you were off the coast of Vietnam or on the boots on the ground in Vietnam.
Right.
And it isn't noted on his discharge paper because it was secret and he was a Marine.
Right.
So, I write at the beginning, the only issue here is proof that he was in Vietnam. If you have anything that proves he was in Vietnam, include it. If you don't have anything, we need to request under the Freedom of Information Act to get that proof. Because when you request it from National Personnel Records, even they don't include it. So you have to do it under the Freedom of Information Act. The only time that I've been surprised with a denial is when people have lied. Like saying that they weren't, that they're married to the veteran or were married to the veteran at the time of his death. That was my very first denial. Married to the veteran at the time of his death, get a denial letter. Mrs. Smith, you are not the surviving spouse of Joe Smith because you divorced him in 1986 and he's living in Florida. So not only was she not married to him when he died, he was still alive.
Right.
So, what I like to say is if everything that you've told me is true on this application, we're going to get it. Now, I should back off from the 100% because of this new looking at last year. Because you'd be shocked how many times I say, okay, is there any additional income last year for your mom or dad? And the answer is no. And then the VA says, hey, what about this, $10,000 IRA withdrawal? And I'll say, okay, now you said there wasn't anything last year. Oh, well, we didn't know about that IRA because they weren't in charge of their parents' finances at that time.
Right.
They didn't even know there'd been one closed out.
Now, what's if they don't? I understand. Let's go on the fee structure. For people who go on their own as opposed to through an assisted living, how does that work?
What do you mean?
Well, if somebody just comes to you and says, I need the benefit.
How we work.
Right, how you work.
Okay, so the bulk of the way that Elder Resources makes its money is it runs a website where assisted livings advertise on the website, one flat fee per year.
Now, is that similar to other firms across the country?
No.
What's their way of...
Usually, people will assist a veteran for free who helps them with, buys one of their financial products, like buys an annuity or does a trust through them, something like that. So what we did is we created a website where assisted livings can advertise, and we use those advertising fees to offset our costs so that we can help people at no charge. But people do hire us for free. I mean, for a fee. They wish they could hire us for free. They do hire us for a fee to do our cash flow analysis. It's a one-time fee of $800 for the cash flow analysis. Of course, first we do start off with a free call. There's no obligation. People call. They never call back. But the first phone call is free. If they want to move forward, it's a one-time fee of $800. And then we assist them with their VA benefit pro bono for the remainder of their life.
And they can make up that, if you're 100 or 99.9% sure they're going to get the benefit, they make that money back on the first month then, because whatever the benefit is, so it's really worthwhile. So tell me when they go...
Well, we have
go
people
ahead.
hire us for the cash flow analysis who aren't even veterans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the cash flow analysis has real value because it shows you here's your income, here are your expenses, this is how long we think your assets are going to last. You look at a family that has a couple of brothers or sisters, that becomes a very valuable document.
Right.
So they can all see this is what's happening with mom or dad. And then as time progresses, they go, you know what, we forgot all these other little expenses. We redo it. This is what's happening with mom and dad. And so it really helps people understand, can really help people not have as many arguments about the care decisions for their parents.
if they decide not to go with a private firm, what is the other alternative for them?
You can always work with a local veteran services officer. They're free. There are also service organizations like Disabled American Veterans, Vietnam Veterans, you know, all of those folks.
Will they have the knowledge as to whether or not these people are going to get the benefit?
They're not going to do all the math that we do.
They're not.
That's really our ballywick is, you know, really trying to make sure up front that things are going to go smoothly for you.
So they have absolutely no idea. They're just going to go through the application with the applicant
would
and
never say they
decide.
have no
No, but I
idea.
mean, as far as the chances of them getting the benefit, they can go in there and hope that they're getting the benefit as opposed to knowing their chances are very, very strong that they're going to get the
Right.
benefit.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of appeal work, and those appeals are people, you know, who tried on their own or did use a service organization or a VA, you know, worked directly with the VA, and just there were some mistakes made.
Okay, well, I think we're running out of time. Patty, I want to thank you again for being here. This is the second show, and it's always nice to have you. Hope to have you again.
Great, thank you.
And this, you know, it all depends on if they go to a 5-year look-back period, then
There
we'll
you
have you
go,
back here
yes.
again. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time at Always There.
Thank you.
Good job.